Oh my God, this is like a dream day right now. This is insane.
That is a low bar.
It's a dream day. The voice of freaking CrossFit on the podcast. This is amazing. What can't this guy do?
Oh, stop.
We have
Thank you
been
for having me.
just big fans for a long time. Pretty much watched everything you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got back from Rogue.
Yeah.
Because my silly self, I messed up the dates that we were going to do this.
The first time.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this. There needs to be some sort of law that is made that when you refer to this Saturday or next Saturday, exactly what that means.
Yes.
I think most people say, well, next Saturday is technically this coming Saturday, but I don't a week from. So there needs to be some sort of universal agreement as to what that means.
So that was awesome. I felt oh my God, I felt so bad.
Oh no, don't worry about it. That's totally fine. Yeah.
But so yeah, you just back from Rogue, dude. How was that? Was that incredible? It looked incredible.
It was, and I really tried to give myself some time away from it before I really came up with like a final judgment on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime you're at a competition, you usually come away with a competition high. Things were great. But I can honestly say that was the best competition I think I've ever been a part of. From top to bottom, everything was first class. The only complaint I heard from anybody there was that there just weren't enough places to eat. And if that's the worst thing you're dealing with, I mean, I thought that the venue was perfect. The fans were awesome. The competition was great. Strongman, strong women, and the CrossFit competitions. The stuff they did for the fans was really cool. I got to go to the Legends Happy Hour that they had the night before. My brother and his wife flew over from Seattle because they wanted
that's cool.
Scotland and they wanted to check it out.
Yeah.
So we went to that, and they wanted to do the tour. I asked them if they wanted to do the tour because they give you like they haven't done this before. They had like an organized tour where they would walk you around the arena and show you the warm up area and stuff. And they had some of the athletes that were there that took part and answered questions from the fans. And it was just a lot of fun. It was really top to bottom, probably the best competition I've ever been a part of. Like I had a great time.
What's it like going to new venues do you get walked around? Do you have to scope it out first?
Yeah, you definitely have to scope it out because from the broadcast side, there are places where you have to meet. You find out where's the production area. Okay, now that I got that. Okay, how do I get to where I need to get to what my little perch that they had up there? Where when I need to eat, where can I go to do that? You definitely have to scope that out and learn the quickest routes. And that was the thing with Step Up Center and then Madison is after year one, you pretty much had it down and it became easy to figure out. But it was fine though because everything was in that venue. It felt like a convention center almost. Because it was all big. It was huge. It was all encapsulated inside. You had the arena itself, but then outside of that, they had another huge exhibition hall where they had Vendor Village, and then they had like a big sort of like concourse where people. It was awesome. Like it was just really. It was like Rogue made the place because the outside is black and white. Like it fit their whole thing. So it was really cool.
Is this your first time ever going over there, or have you like traveled there personally before?
I've never been to Scotland. And I could have been anywhere because it was. I landed at the airport and I left California at like 8:40 p.m. on Tuesday and I got in at 6-something p.m. Wednesday. Oh, so I was tired, so I went to the airport to the hotel, and the hotel and the venue were right across from each other, walking distance. And then it was just like hotel, venue, hotel, venue, hotel, blah blah blah.
Wow.
Airport out. Like it was just so there was really no tourism or sightseeing. If it's there next year and I have the pleasure of being part of it, then I'm going to try to take a little time and check some things out.
That's awesome.
Well, I really wanted to go back. When did your paths kind of meet with? Whoa.
Sorry. I was putting something on a story. Sorry. sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Stop touching stuff.
I'm trying to turn it off. Sorry.
That could have been a lot worse though.
Sorry.
I really wanted to know how your path actually crossed with CrossFit.
Oh man. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
As far as like the broadcast side or just in general?
Both.
All right. I'll give you everything.
Yeah,
okay. So in 2007, 17 years ago, I was working in Jacksonville, Florida at a local TV station, WJXT TV, as a sports anchor. And I was at the time doing what everybody else was doing for fitness, going to the Globo gym and doing the normal thing. Monday is this day and Tuesday is this day, and you had your routine and you did it every week, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And I really wasn't seeing, you just get to a point where like, I'm bored with this. I need something new. I'm not seeing the results that I want to see. And at the time, one of the producers / photographers who worked in the sports department, his wife was a personal trainer, not even a CrossFit trainer, just a personal trainer who worked at this little studio gym that was near the TV station. And he suggested to me, he's like, hey, there's this thing that she's started doing. It's called CrossFit. And you go and you look on a website and they have a workout and you just do that workout. And she seems to think it's really cool. You should give it a try. You should go in and get some training sessions. Like, okay, I'll see. So I checked it out. I remember I went on the website, CrossFit.com, looked at the work. And this was like when it was the old, before they redid the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Looked at the workout and it was like 5 sets of 5 shoulder press. And I went, well, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't look too exciting. So I kind of
what I was already doing.
Yeah. What's so novel about this? So fast forward, I kind of just forgot about it. But then I got to the point where it's like, all right, I need to give something new a try. So I went in, signed up. And I remember the first thing she did was sort of just like teach me a basic air squat, kind of taught me how to do a really crappy kipping pull-up. Did some other things. And then the workout, we're just going to do 10 rounds of Cindy. I said, what's that?
Oh.
So here it is. Okay, cool. 10 rounds for time. I can do this. And it freaking killed me. Like I was 10 rounds and I don't know, it took a while, but I was like, okay, all right, I get it. This is exactly what I need to do. And I just was in from the start there. I just, everything. I was like watching the old videos, going to different websites, because I realized that I had been wasting so much time with my fitness that I just wanted to make up for lost time because I was 33 at the time. So I was already still kind of like at the back end of my athletic prime. And that's kind of how it started. And then as far as the broadcast thing started, I got out of television in 2009, was working in PR and marketing in Jacksonville, then wound up moving back to California, wanted to be closer to my family, but I was still doing some freelance stuff for like Comcast Sportsnet, things like that, just to keep it.
Oh, okay.
So in 2011, I went to the games as a fan, with my old college roommate. And I was sitting there in the tennis stadium and it was like, I think it was a Killer Cage event. And they had this camera on a jib. That was me. Sorry.
It's okay.
They had this camera on a jib, like there's the big arm thing. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And they had Miranda Oldroyd and Rory McKernan were out there on the field with ESPN mic flags. I was like, holy crap. They're actually doing this. I got to find out a way to get involved in this.
Oh, that's the first year I ever saw it, was that ESPN.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the first year I saw it.
That was it. And that because they did post-production shows from that broadcast for ESPN. That broadcast was not live. It was taped, obviously, and then they did it later. I got home and I sent off a random email to like media@crossfit.com or something, explained who I was, talked about my background, said I'd love to get involved. And then this was like August, I think, of 2011. Didn't hear anything. February 2012, I go in to get my L1 at the University of Nevada, Reno. And Pat Sherwood was one of the instructors. And I had seen Pat on those early videos, like the early update show stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, I got to go talk to him. I'm going to regret this if I don't. The worst thing he's going to do is just blow me off. Mm-hmm. Approached him at a break and said, hey, I know you do this stuff. I'd really like to get involved. Here's kind of my background. What would you suggest doing? And Pat, to his credit, said, well, send me your email and I'll forward your information. And I kind of thought at the time, okay, he's not going to do that, but he did. May of that year, I'm sitting at my desk at my marketing job and my cell phone rings and it's a number I don't recognize. And I pick it up and it's Rory McKernan. Oh crap. And so I immediately bolt out the side exit, like I'm taking a little walk or something. And and Rory asked he's like, hey man, you've been on our radar for a while. We're trying to put together a broadcast team to go do the Central East Regional in Columbus, Ohio, because they were going to use that as a rehearsal for ESPN. And they were trying to find people who could do it. I said, yes, 100%. I don't care. And he goes, well, we'd like you to do play-by-play for the women's competition with Tanya Wagner. I go, in. Great. I'll find it.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
One way or another, I'll be there. Yep.
Kind of how that was my first entrance into it. And at the time, it was sort of right place, right time, right situation. I was the only guy that showed up there that had any sort of broadcast background with CrossFit knowledge. Everyone else was just, L1 instructors and stuff that they were trying to figure out how they could do it. And a lot of them were really good. Mm-hmm. And that's
okay. So you weren't nervous at all then?
I mean, I was nervous because I had really, really wanted to do this. And I was like, I just do your thing and, do what you do. And that's fine. And what put me in an advantage is that there's a lot of times where you're talking and someone is giving you a countdown in your ear because you've got to get out of break. So I was the only person who was like used to having someone interrupt me while I was talking, or used to that kind of thing. So I had a head start on people because if you've never dealt with that in a broadcast situation, it can be a little unsettling. You have a tendency when someone interrupts you to just stop talking. You're like, what? And then you listen to them, then you keep going. So that experience paid off for me. And I had been prior to that, I had been helping them out at their HQ that was at the time in Scotts Valley, California, doing their regional coverage. Cause that was back when there was like 17 regionals, and they were putting together highlight videos every heat of every event. And so you had to write them, voice them, get them out. It was just chaos. So I had gone to the office and helped them out just because I wanted to be involved. And then that happened. And it was kind of from there, it just took off.
We talked to Chase and to Bill about that, and they both said the same thing, that having somebody talk to you in your ear.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
It's weird. Yeah. It's why my wife says, like, I don't think you're hearing me. And then all of a sudden you repeat back exactly what I said. I was like, yeah, because I'm used to someone like, yeah, it's just something that you don't think about when you watch people, whatever sport it is, like that's constantly going on.
Yeah.
But they're so good at it that they just don't, you don't know.
This is just the complete geeky fan in me, but all those that you just had one of those great one-liners too for Brent Fikowski and you're like, for the final time, class dismissed or something. Like you had this great end to his competition. It just comes to you in the moment?
That was one that I knew I wanted to use.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a couple that I'll file away. Others just, the big one that everyone talks about that was just totally off the cuff was the Matt Fraser one.
Yeah.
I gotta give a shout out to John Woolley. He's in the chat here.
Oh, I know. He's been messing.
Looking
This
like
show is like looking in
It
the
is,
mirror.
right? Yeah.
I should say hi to everybody. Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah. Hey guys. Thanks so much
being
for-
here.
Vindicate, dude. We love you.
Yep.
Thanks for the
Everyone's
shirts.
Anyway, yeah. So that the only one that the one big one that was off the cuff was the Matt Fraser reaction, because that was a generally just like holy crap moment for me. The other ones I sort of have an idea of. Okay, what if this happens? Maybe I'll say that. But yeah, that one I knew I wanted to work in, because I said that. I think I said that back in 2021 or 2 when he won. He won the bike snatch event. So I've used that. So I just felt that was a good thing to say at the end.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was so good.
That gave me goosebumps. And it was just like, oh my God, wow. Okay.
I didn't want to screw that one up. I'm like, okay, we got to say something good for Brent because he's a good dude.
Yeah.
So right after you do the regionals, do you go immediately to the games? Are they like, yes, like you're going to the games now?
So what happened? Yeah. So we had, I can't remember what weekend that was, but there were more weekends of coverage after that. I mean, there was 4 or 5 competitions for 4 weeks. Like it was busy. So I remember going back, I think it was the following weekend, to help out with the post-production stuff. And a guy by the name of Joe Novello, who was the coordinating producer at the time, who had a wealth of TV experience. Like they brought him in early on to kind of help them grow this thing. He was talking to me and he's like, well, yeah, they want you to do the games. And I was like, inside, I was like, oh my God, yes. And so are you available? I'm like, I'm absolutely available. And I just remember, I remember that pretty vividly, because I was like, finally, I got a chance to do this. And I was so thankful for them.
What does your wife say?
She was pretty happy about it, because at the time we weren't married at the time. We'd only been together, I think, for about 5 or 6 months at that time.
Oh, and now you're traveling and
back and forth. And it was even worse when I got hired full time in January of 2013. She was still working as a patrol officer at a city outside of Sacramento called Citrus Heights. So we moved, and she would come and be in Santa Cruz for a couple of days, and then she'd go all the way back, which is like a 3-hour drive to Sacramento, work, and then come back. It was off. I don't know why she's like, I'm so lucky that she stuck with me, because I gave her about a million reasons to not stick around.
I have to imagine that's like, I mean, her schedule has got to be crazy. Then your schedule is crazy. That takes a crazy amount of trust to be able to work that out. I know if I'm not within eyesight of my wife, she's, where are you? What are you doing? What's going on?
No, it was rough, because there was one time when we moved over to San Jose, because she had just gotten a job at Morgan Hill, because she obviously wanted to be closer to the area. So she got hired on at Morgan Hill. She had to go through training, And once you get off training, they put you on graveyards. So there was literally times where she was coming home from work and I was leaving the house. It was like, hi, see you later, for a long time. So it's, and I think part of me having worked a TV schedule where I a lot of times went in at 2:30 and didn't get home till midnight kind of helped that, because I was just used to the chaos. I didn't really have a lot of normalcy up to that point. So
right.
For business as usual.
So when you first come in to start working with CrossFit and everything like that, you come into something new for them, as you were saying, like they're getting just new in the broadcasting and trying to grow this. With your personal experience of being in TV for a little bit, were you able to come to the table as to like give advice or give some ideas of like things that work, things that don't, or did it kind of grow organically with everybody kind of being in the same room?
There was some of that. Luckily, there were some other people that they brought on board quickly after me who had a lot of experience in television. So Joe Novello was kind of the original guy who had been, he's been around long enough. He worked on Wide World of Sports. Like if anybody's old enough to remember that.
Yeah.
So he had, so he knew, he had some background in it. Then I came in, and then we brought in this guy by the name of Charlie Doobie, who was at the time working at ESPN as a production assistant. So there were people who existed outside and had done other sports who had success doing something that they're like, okay, we're going to take this now and apply it here. But it was funny because when I first got there, I realized that they just had their way of doing things. CrossFit did. And, I'm not going to be the new guy who shows up and be like, hey, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. I just shut my mouth. I'm just going to do my job and just whatever you guys want to do, you want to do. Because it used to be where Tony Budding, who was the guy who ran the media department, had his hands in everything. And he was very like meticulous about the way things
nitpicky of little thing. Yeah.
It was, any little minor stumble in an update show, any little point that wasn't made completely correctly, it was like, do it again. And I remember when we were doing those that regional coverage, we would do all those videos and it would be like 11:30 p.m. Pacific time. And Tony, Pat, and Rory would go downstairs to the studio to record the update show. And they wouldn't get done sometimes till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Then they would have to edit it. And then this poor guy, Jason Smith, who was the editor, was there all night putting it together. And then he would send it out. But the problem was, like, by the time they got it out, competition had started for the next day. So now this is somewhat irrelevant. And I just looked at this process and I remember from a distance going, this is messed up. Like, they can't do it this way. They got to fix this. And it was just, they were so just determined to make it work that at that time, it wasn't really worthwhile to sort of say, hey, I got an idea. Because that was just how they did it. But as we sort of moved through and as more people came in who had experience from outside, started to get their hands on it, it sort of started to change, I think, for the better and resemble something that looked more like traditional sports coverage.
Did you ever have to help out like your color commentator? Were you ever with someone that, did you nudge Chase and you're like, yo, come on, you got to talk?
No, not like that. Chase is a natural. He's
he is
at that job. But I do remember when I worked the first event, so that Central East Regional, Tanya Wagner, who was one of my favorite people on the face of the planet, showed up as a color commentator with, I'm not kidding you, this binder that was like that thick of information. And I'm going, there is no way you're going to need all of that, but you're going to learn that on your own. And it was, she was like flipping through stuff and I was like, we have got to find a way to pare this information down. But that's just part of the learning process. You don't know what you don't know. And in that situation, you think that you're going to need all this information and you use maybe 10% of it. And
that's like, me.
Flipping through stuff. He had colored tabs and the whole 9 yards. I'm going, I love the fact that you did all this research, but
you're probably not even going to say like a fraction.
No, there's no way. So I guess it's better to be over prepared for things, but that was funny just to see people figure that out. And I remember too, early on, we had this huge debate about being professional on air and how you can't hug athletes and how you can't be seen on camera high-fiving the competitors. And that we called it a broadcast boot camp in Scotts Valley, where we brought all the people in, and the director, who still is the director, he's been doing it since 2010, a guy by the name of Mike Roth, who's done work for professional soccer, for the NHL, for I think he's done the Olympics.
Oh wow.
Was sort of helping people understand what this role is about. And that turned into like an hour debate, because everyone's like, well, I'm friends with these people and I'm listening. He's like, I don't care. You can't be seen as an impartial broadcaster giving someone a big hug on air. Take it somewhere else. Yep. Yeah. So it was just funny what kind of triggered people.
In the beginning of your career working with CrossFit, did you have something that was like your favorite? Like, did you love broadcasting at regionals? Did you love doing voiceovers? Like, what was kind of like your favorite in the beginning? And then did it change over the course of your career?
I think that's a good question. I always loved the live events, and I still do. That's still probably my favorite thing. The one thing that I remember really loving, and it's funny because they were long weekends, was the old regional covers that we used to do, where we had the studio show and we would, we'd update live what was going on in the other competitions. Those were so fun because it was just us, this group of people that had a passion for this, hanging out, watching this sport, talking, coming up with shows. And it was a blur, but it was so fun just being in that, because it really felt like at that time when we were doing that coverage, like, okay, now we're getting to a point where this is looking like we've wanted it to look like for a while. And that was just those times spent, goofing around in the media bullpen that we call it, and we talked about, and taking naps on the couch and saying stuff that absolutely would have gotten all of us fired had it made air.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun, and that's when you realize like how funny guys like Pat Sherwood are, and just the whole dynamic with that crew. It was a special group, and what sucks is that no one ever tells you that you're in the good old days or in the golden years. When you're in the golden years, you figure that out when you're out of it. So I wish we would have appreciated that time a little bit more.
Was there ever anything where someone got caught with like a hot mic, or you said something that you really wish you could have taken?
Not with us. No, but I think it happened at the games one time to Pat, and it was just something where he said, and it wasn't even anything bad. He said something, I think, about Christy Phillips Adkins, just not a good, and again, it was like, wasn't anything personal.
Right.
Someone like they were chatting, and someone, I guess, texted him, "Hey guys, your mics are hot." And he's like, "Oh, God."
Man.
Again, it wasn't anything terrible. So
Okay. So what happens next? So now the media team is gone. Like they're not broadcasting anymore very often. And you guys were one of, the first podcasts to pop up. It was like, you can only find like you, Buttery Bros, Craig Ritchie, there's a bunch more, but
yeah.
How do you guys decide you want to do this now? You're going to take it to the podcast?
Well, so at that time, there were discussions. So when we all got let go in 2018, there were discussions with IMG about them taking over the sports side of it. And I had been in contact with a couple of people over there who wanted to, like, hey, we're working out this deal. We'd love to have you as part of it. This is what we have in mind. And Tommy and I still wanted to be in the space, and we were trying to figure out, what could we do that was, we knew we couldn't do a TV, like some sort of broadcasting. We just didn't have the money. So, okay, how do we do this? All right, podcast. We'll do that. And that's kind of how that started. And it was more an attempt, this was never supposed to be a long-term thing. It was more an attempt just to stay relevant. So if and when that IMG deal happened, we could kind of just slide in easily to that, because we'd still be keeping updated with the sport. And that deal obviously fell through. I remember that took months. It was like back and forth. And there was a sanction event. It was the not the syndicate, the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge.
Yep.
In Washington, DC. And that's because of the negotiations that have been going on. IMG had agreed to do that event, because they thought this was probably going to get done. So they put on that production. Tommy and I went and did it. And then shortly after that whole deal just fell through. And then we were just kind of sitting there going, okay, what do we do? And we just kept kind of doing the podcast. And then we thought, okay, maybe we can get a sponsor. And then we got a sponsor. It's like, oh, that's cool. We got a little, like, well, what do we do now? And we kept going, and it kept building. And then we kind of had to start running like a business. Like, I was keeping a budget, like all this stuff started happening. And we said, okay, this is fun. We're doing okay with it. And there were still some opportunities to do some live stuff. So it really just kind of spun out of that. But when we started, this was never supposed to be, okay, now this is going to be our deal for the next 5-6 years or whatever it's going to be. But it was just we were just trying to stay in the space and stay relevant, because we honestly didn't have anything else to do. I have
and there was no CrossFit media
marketable skills. So it's like, this is going to be this, or maybe something else, So, yeah.
Were you surprised when everything happened with the media at CrossFit, or did you kind of start to feel like something was happening, or when it actually did happen, was it much bigger than you thought?
I remember, so there were 2 times where stuff like this was talked about. The first, I think, was in 2014. And then whatever happened, it didn't take place. So I remember in 2018, this was probably, I don't know, it's maybe been after regionals. It was the summer leading into the games where Joe Novello, again, the coordinating producer, came into my office and said, hey man, here's what's going on. Greg is looking to make some big changes to the game season. They're thinking about changing the way they do regionals and stuff like that. You know, I don't know what's going to happen, but just want to give you a heads up. And I said, okay, do I need to start updating my resume? Mm-hmm. And he goes, no, I don't think we're there yet. And I said, okay. So there was still talk of what was going to happen leading into the games. So we get to the games in 2018. And I remember being taken into this production trailer by Joe, and he brought Charlie Doobie in as well, who's the producer. And he said, hey guys, I got really good news. Facebook is coming to the table with all this money that they want to put behind this for the broadcast. Looks like we're going to be okay. You know, nothing's guaranteed, but this is a really good thing. And we're like, okay, great. I don't need to worry about this anymore. I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to go do the job here, and that's fine. So then when we got back from the games is when the first round happened. And that's when everybody was like, oh crap, like this is actually a thing. Mm-hmm. And our crew at the time, we survived. Like there was a few of us that survived the first round of the layoffs. And it was because we had a contract with CBS to deliver like 5 post-production shows. Yeah. So we survived that round, and there was just this constant from that point on to when we finally got let go. It was just this constant roller coaster of, oh, we're safe. No, we're not. Oh, we're safe. Okay. We're going to get fired. And it was just this constant roller coaster. And then, you know, sure enough, we got the
anxiety's got to be high with that, right?
Brutal. Like there were times where I was like, what am I going to do? And then there's other times, oh, great. This deal is going to happen. We're going to be okay. Yeah. And then it was, oh crap, we're done. And then because you heard all kinds of different things from different people, and you never got, like, I tried to get answers from people, and look, the people I went to, I don't fault them because they didn't have the answers either.
Right.
But then, I think it was October. I remember because I had surgery on I had a deviated septum surgery. And so I remember I was like just gotten out of the hospital. It was an outpatient surgery. I was feeling miserable. And then I got the call like, hey, yeah,
you're like, great.
They're going to let us go. I'm like, fantastic.
I got this on top of each other. Were you, what were the emotions that you were kind of feeling, like from a fan perspective of just loving the sport, mm-hmm. and then your position and your experience of being able to broadcast and to this day are known as the voice of CrossFit, the CrossFit Games. Everybody knows you by your voice. Like, were you having conflicting feelings on that? Did you have a lot of emotions from both perspectives when the media team was let go?
Yeah, obviously I was upset, because the problem was that we felt we were right there. Like we were on the goal line. Because if you remember that season, we had regionals on CBS Sports Network and CBS The Network. And they had said, we're really interested in doing this next season. What can we do for the Open, for regionals moving on? Like they were on board. And it felt like finally, oh, this is really going to happen. Like, I remember leaving West Palm Beach that year because that was the one that we put on CBS, and thinking like, this is it. Like this is going to happen next year.
Like you've made it. Like you've worked so hard. You made it.
We're here. We've all this hard work and all this stuff that we try to get to be taken seriously and have someone want to put this sport on. We're finally there, and to have that yanked out from under you it sucked. But like it's a business. I heard different things throughout this entire thing about where things were financially. And I still don't know what the absolute truth is on that. Mm-hmm. But I understand, look, you can't, as a business, you can't just bleed cash. That's not a good model. That's, that's not sustainable. But yeah, it was hard. It was really tough to deal with because everybody had worked so hard with this to try to get it where it was. And it was paying off. If we weren't getting any network attention, if we weren't building viewership, if sponsors didn't want to be part of it, then it just didn't work. But it was working, and that was the hardest thing to deal with. And it sucked too because those people were like family, and they still are like family to me.
Yeah.
And so.
And how's your wife feel? Obviously, like you said you just had surgery. You find out you're getting laid off. Your
career, like
she was amazing through this whole thing. Like I remember saying, I have got to go find a job. I've got to go do something. And she was like, look, we were in the middle of remodeling our kitchen.
Ugh.
Always,
so it was like,
right?
yeah, it's
Money
always
going out.
Always.
Yep.
and so we were I was sitting there and I go, I got to find something. I have got to find a job. And I had, what was good is I had a few things booked. So like Katie Henniger had reached out to me from Rogue. She asked me to do some strongman stuff. Like I am forever thankful for her for that. And she's like, I don't want you to go out and just get a job you're going to hate. She's like, give this thing some time. Like give it some time. We're okay. Because look, as a husband, well, we weren't married at the time, but actually, yeah, we were. So as a husband, like you want to make sure you're providing for your family, and you're like that's a male ego thing. So I was like, I want to make sure that I'm doing my part for this household, and so to not be able to do that sucked. And I was like, I have got to figure something out. And she said, give this some time. You've got the Rogue stuff coming up. We're going to be all right. See what happens. Give it 7-8 months, and then we'll reevaluate. And luckily, like that, then it took off. And so I'm like forever thankful for her for doing that, because a lot of people just wouldn't have gotten that level of support. So she was huge in that, because I was ready to just be like, I'm just going to start firing off resumes to anybody possible.
Anybody and anything. Yep.
Yeah, whatever. I'll go pour coffee at Starbucks. I don't care.
Right. That's an amazing wife right there. That's a backbone for you.
She's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's up? Souza, games.
Got it.
Games expenses growing each year, affiliate and training revenue declining each year. It was a train running off tracks, still is now to some degree.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Okay, so let's switch gears to the games this year. Just your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
How did you, everything that happened, super sad. How did you think that, like, Chase and Adrian, because I know you just worked with Adrian, so obviously you've talked, but how did you think they did? Chase and I have talked about it before. We all thought that he handled it the best way he possibly could handle it. How did you feel when you saw it?
I thought those guys did as good a job as you could ask anybody to do. Like it was funny because I was really upset that I wasn't there. This was my thing. Like I love doing it. I love being around the people. I love seeing everybody. I love the experience. And so to not be there, like I was gutted by the whole thing. And so I remember when the whole thing happened and all that, with Lazar and all that stuff, I was like, oh man, maybe it's probably better that I wasn't part of this. And some people even reached out and said, boy, I bet you're glad you're not there. And part of me was, yeah, sure. Yes, there is part of me that was glad, but there was another part of me is like, I just wanted to be there to help, because, I was talking to some of the people on the production team. They were calling me like, hey, would you be willing to help with this? Could you help write this? I was like, dude, whatever you guys need, you just let me know. Like, I'm here. And I thought that those two, given the situation that they were put in, did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And that was a no-win situation for everybody involved in that from the broadcast side of things. And I thought they all, they did as well as you could possibly do given those circumstances. And, I've never in my career broadcasting had to deal with anything remotely close to that. So the fact that they were able to make it through the way they did, I think they deserve a ton of credit. And I told people, like, you're going to find out how good Chase Ingram is when he does this. And I think people understand like how talented that guy is, because he's one of the few people in the space that can do both jobs really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you had done that crazy funny reel with Fluffy Duck. That was amazing.
So funny.
So Josh was coming up here in the Bay Area to do for a work trip. And he's like, hey man, I was thinking, like, what if I just come to your place? We just hang out and watch the games. I was like, you know what? Yes, that will be fun. I need that. That would be a good time. Mm-hmm. And so he showed up, and, he showed up after that first event. So obviously things had changed completely, and we're kind of like staring at each other because we had this whole plan to do, watch parties, and we're going to have a good time. Like, let's just make the best of this. Mm-hmm. And so that obviously went out the window.
Yeah.
And we were just sitting there one day, and he goes, he's like, you want to do something? This was, I think, Saturday or Sunday. I was like, okay, yeah, man, what'd you have in mind? He's like, well, I was thinking I could do this, this, and this. I was like, okay, fine. And we did it. And I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in on this, and we're going to make it as funny as possible.
Real and as possible.
And so one thing, I think it gave people a laugh in like a real kind of bad situation. And if we could just provide people with one moment of levity in that whole thing, then it was worth it. So
it was so good. It was so funny. And it was funny because I think it was even more funny because, like, you didn't expect it.
Yeah.
We weren't not expecting you to just come into the come into the picture and be right there.
Yeah.
Because when it got so loud, I was like, wow, this is such a good voiceover. And then here you come actually into the screen. I was like, that makes it even better. And I think that it was an awesome gift, I think, to the community, just as a reminder that we have each other and that we can really lean on each other, and that, you know, jokes and laughter is a really, really good tool to have, especially in such a terrible, sad time like that. So
we needed it.
we
for sure.
absolutely needed it. And we're
Good.
very grateful for that, because it was so good.
And part of me was like, man, I don't want to come off like some insensitive a-hole here. Like, what? And Josh was like, no, we'll do it. It'll be fine. And I tried. Okay, cool. Let's go. And then I remember my wife was outside with my son. She came in. She's like, were you just screaming in here? I was like, yeah, we did it. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Well, what's this? What you were going to be, Savon said, I think my mouse is dead.
Yeah, I got you.
We were going to be the Facebook first live sports event. They were going to make us their premier sport event on the platform. And
I think that's accurate.
Deal was good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the thing. Like, I remember how happy Joe was when he told us, like, yes, this is going to be great. Like, they've come to the table with all this money. Like, this is going to happen. So I didn't know the specifics of it. So if that's what, I have no reason.
That's what they remember.
Yeah. So that was so disappointing. It was like, it was all right there. But again, I didn't have the full picture of everything. You know? So.
All right, let's get into, I know you guys, we only have him for a short amount of time. I want to ask him so many things, but do you see anything that you actually want to respond to?
I haven't seen any questions.
Oh yeah. Okay. Hey, Jeremy World, what's up, dude? Your son, 4, 5 now?
4, almost. He'll be 5 in February.
He's adorable.
Thank you.
When you found out she was pregnant, was it like, did she surprise you? Was there some big grandiose?
No, we had been trying for a while. So this is out there. We did IVF, and it was one of those things where, like, we went through one cycle didn't work, went through another one that didn't work. Like, we were kind of, is this ever going to happen? And we were literally down to our last embryo. We had like one real good one. This is like our last shot. And we had been through one that I remember, like, we thought she was pregnant. It was like everything looked good, and then it didn't happen. So that sucked to go through that. So it's like you learn really fast in that process. Like, if anyone has ever gone through it, you go through this sort of resetting of expectations. Like, you just realize, like, you just have to keep an even keel to keep yourself from getting hurt. So I'll never forget, like, it looked good. They transferred the embryo that looked really good. And then you got to wait, and they tell you, don't take the home pregnancy tests, because that's not going to tell you anything. Like, those things are like, so you don't do that. So there's literally like these, like, 2 or 3 weeks between when the transfer happens and when you get the blood tests and all that stuff. So then you got to get the blood test and the test, and you got to wait for the results on that.
Yep.
I'll never forget, I was in the garage working out. I was doing some squats, and she comes out of the door, because I knew we were getting the results soon. And she just looked at me and she got this big smile, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. So, like, we were all super happy. So yeah, it was a pretty special thing. So
sorry, I'm just like, really, because we were too. We were on we weren't IVF, but we were IUI.
Oh yeah. We tried that too. It didn't.
Yeah. No, it was very difficult for her to get pregnant as well. So we were down.
We did our last try, because I had gotten to a point where I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore, at least right now. Like, I really need a break.
It sucks.
It's consuming. It literally is a part of, and I don't know if you guys experienced it, but it was literally a part of every single part of our day, every single part of our conversations, every single part of our marriage. Like, it was literally, it was like the thing that, like, hung over you every single day, and you couldn't move through life with anything else without bringing this up. And so for us, it got to a point where I needed a break. I was like, I can't do this anymore, but we have one more try. So we'll try. And then because of IUI, it was kind of the same thing. Like, don't take the pregnancy test at home. You're going to try to take it too early. Wait for the blood results. We ended up taking one at home. It came back positive, but I didn't believe it was real until I got the blood test results. So
yeah, it's a rough, like, and I've always told people, like, if you're out there and you're going through this and some, reach out to me. I don't know what kind of help I can be, but I know it was always nice just to be able to bounce things off people who have been through it.
Yeah.
I don't know for you, but for me, it was just so hard watching her get those no's every
Oh,
time.
God, it was the worst, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never forget going in, after the first transfer, and some of the stuff came back. It's like, well, the levels aren't where they're supposed to be, and so now you become, Google doctor, where you're looking up all this, well, it could be this, and this says this, which is, don't ever do that, because now that just sends you down this rabbit hole. And then I remember going in for the ultrasound, and they're just, we're sorry, there's nothing there. And it was like, I remember the nurse who helped us out at that time, who just had no good bedside manner, was more like, yeah, sorry, and then just kind of walked out. And then we're like, well, what do we do now? And it sucked. Like, it was devastating, because there's nothing worse than watching someone you love go through that, knowing that there is just absolutely nothing you can do right now. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do to make it better. You just have to be there and be like, okay, let's get back up and try again.
Yeah.
So,
we took breaks. There were time periods where we would go 6 months and not try, or 8 months and not try, and just to give her a break mentally.
Yeah. A lot of it too is like what doctor you have. Like, the first doctor we had, we were like, we just didn't, what is this guy doing? And we were lucky enough to find someone that I will take a bullet for this guy. He was amazing. Dr. Harrison was his name. Dr. Harris, sorry, because my son's middle name is Harrison, because after him, the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That's a fantastic human being, who were like, this guy is amazing. Like, we would actually look forward to going to the appointments, because he was such a good dude, and helped us out tremendously. And just, we got lucky, and it was, it's pretty special. So I wish we could have another one. We can't, just because, I'm older, she's older. I don't think it'd be a really, really small chance that it would work.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not cheap.
Nope.
So
and a lot of hormones too, right? That was one thing.
Yeah.
Because I never did that.
Yeah.
So we had tried again for a second one a couple years ago, and they wanted to start introducing shots and hormones and whatever. And for her and I, we just felt like that didn't align with us, because the more invasive you get, then the more problems I could have. I mean, it took me so long to get pregnant with him the first time. We didn't really want to start all of those, things. But I think something it's important that you shared is that when you go through this process, whether you do IUI or IVF or whatever, if you don't have a doctor that's invested in you, it's a very difficult process, because we had many different doctors. When I finally went to a specialist, it literally was like, who was there that day? Who was going to do the procedure that day? Thank you so much. Like, look at a piece of paper and whatever. And it feels so impersonal. And it's such a personal, hormonal, emotional journey that you're going on, especially when you get the nose and you constantly go back and you're hopeful and then you're not. And you mentioned the roller coaster. And so I know you watched her go through a roller coaster, but was it hard for you to go through your roller coaster emotions too? Or did you kind of keep them quiet and let her have hers? Or were you guys able to kind of ride the roller coaster together?
I think we sort of rode it together, but at the same time, I always tried to, like, she's doing all the work. I was doing jack squat, honestly, nothing. So I just tried to keep whatever frustrations I had with the process or anything not top of mind, and focus more on what she was going through. Because there's all these shots that you got to have, and all this, like, needles that we were displaying. It's just so much stuff, like two times a day, right? And one right here, and then there's the one that, and she, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. She's like, I got it. Just thank God. I don't know if I could have done that. Like,
I couldn't do it.
And I remember I'd sit there and be like, I'd like emotional support here to cheer you on.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, right. Like, so it was it's just a rough process for people to go through, because I think that
I couldn't believe how Colleen handled it. They were bringing out stuff in the doctor's office, like wands and stuff, and I was like, what is that? And where is it going?
Like, man, I've got the easy job here. This is not,
and it gets to a point where it's like, you want it so badly that you're willing to go through everything, but also got to a point where I was like, please stop stop touching me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much more blood I can give you. I don't want to keep having the same conversations. And, did you guys have outside support too, or did you guys really just lean on each other and go through the experience together?
Yeah, it was more just we leaned on each other. Like I remember she found a podcast my wife did that was about like an IVF experience that people had, and we listened to that, but we didn't really know anybody else who had gone through it.
Mhm.
I think through the process, we talked to a few people, and since we've met a lot of people who've gone through it. It was, we didn't, we're not really in close proximity to either of our immediate families. My mom lives in Sacramento, which is like 2.5, 3 hours away. Her family lives up in Redding, which is, about a 5-hour drive. So it's not, we don't have anybody. We have like some really good friends here, especially on her side, from her job. And, I have, my friends from CrossFit and stuff, but yeah, it was, there wasn't a big support system around. So that made it was like learn as you go.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Hey, Trish. Yes, the magic wand. What's up?
Yeah.
I don't think that was it. Yeah, but
that one is great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Gus, what's up?
I would like to say yes, but I'm not optimistic.
Listen, we're Giants fans over here. It's just
God, I'm so sorry.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I like the Giants. I got a good friend. My friend Charlie's a big Giants fan.
It's a wash. I mean, I'm only watching it today because Danny Dimes is benched, and I want to see
Dimes.
I want to see Cutlets. Cutlets is coming out today, so we're gonna watch that, see how atrocious that is.
Yeah.
Did you see the Tyson fight at all? Did you watch the glitchy?
The glitchy Tyson fight?
I did. Yeah, I watched it. I was, it's funny because I think that was just a hard dose of reality in everybody's face. People like me that grew up watching that guy when he was in his prime kind of expected that to come back.
Yep.
And it was like, time is undefeated, man.
Dude, I was so scared for his life around the fifth round.
Yeah, it was pretty clear that this was now just going to be a sparring session.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They might get in trouble though, because people were betting on that. And then when Jake Paul just kind of started to carry him and then definitely didn't fight him for like the last 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was, we were talking about this. I was talking about this with some people the other day, this group of dads that I work out with on Friday mornings. We were like, yeah, it's a payday. They don't care. Like,
yeah.
Right.
$20 million. What does he care if he, so what?
Yeah. Did you see the girls fight?
Because I didn't. I literally tuned in right as they were walking out. Like I didn't.
Oh man,
that
was
fight
insane.
Was amazing.
That's what I heard. I was like, everybody at the group that I was talking to as well said like that was the
fight.
That was it.
I missed that one.
I don't watch
boxing or MMA. I'm not into any of that stuff. But I was like, all right, I'll tune in. Let's just see what this.
You have to. It's Tyson.
You got me fine. I admit it. I got it.
The hype was so big, you kind of just had to tune into it. You couldn't miss it.
Yeah.
If Netflix lets you,
I know.
A lot of people.
No, that was I did get this. I did get that wheel. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Come on, Netflix, and they're going to show NFL games. Like that ain't going to fly.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Like the Seal ain't going to have that.
And they're showing them on Thanksgiving too, right? If you mess up Thanksgiving. It's Christmas?
Maybe with Christmas is on a Wednesday. Maybe it's that weekend. I don't know.
You can't mess that up.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, no.
Those are big games.
That's all day TV watching.
You will get personal visits from Roger Goodell's crew. This is not happening.
I always like to ask this question, especially to the dads. After you have him, does any of your kind of worldview change?
100%.
Yeah, right.
It absolutely, and for the better, I think. It's one of those things where there are a couple moments in my life where I can look back and I say, today is the first day of the rest of my life. And I remember when Max was born, I was like, today is the first day of the rest of my life. I am no longer a priority. He comes first, period. Like that's it. Mm-hmm. And it also helps put a lot of things in perspective. It's like what matters and what you need to spend time worrying about. And try to focus more on what's important. And especially because I'm just so thankful that I have the opportunity to be a dad because I didn't know if I was going to.
Yeah.
So that it really, you can't explain to anybody. And I told Tommy this. Tommy was one of the first people I thought about when my son was born. Cause I was like, I can't wait for him to have this experience. And now he's going through it as well. And I told him, I was like, I couldn't, I hope you understand. He's like, yeah, I get it. Because I said like, it is a world changing event.
Yeah,
I'm
like little
so
things
glad.
just don't bother you anymore. It's just
Yeah,
not necessary.
there's a lot of stuff now that I'm just like, whatever. You know, I'm much better at letting a lot of things just roll off my back than I was
Yeah.
before that.
Dude, thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. I didn't want to
Oh,
keep you
my
too.
pleasure. No, I got time. So
Oh, you're
Well,
good.
I have,
Yeah. Go then. Go.
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
he comes into this world and he changes your entire life.
Mhm.
Was there ever a conversation for you or your wife? Because obviously your wife has a very big career that she's put all of her time and work and
Mhm.
effort into, and she's very proud of that. And then you also having a very successful career. Was there ever conversations of letting your career go in a way, or like pulling back a little bit, or
Yeah.
she pulled back a little bit or whatever? Because you hear these conversations where it's like some families, it's like one career completely falls off and they stay home with the kid or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
can you kind of talk us through like those conversations if you guys ever had those?
Well, I think it was sort of assumed that I would kind of be the one who I had more flexibility at the time. That I would kind of pick that up, and we were trying to figure out, like, we got really lucky because there was another family in our neighborhood that had just had a baby. And I think, my wife ran into them at the walking our dogs one day at the park, and Cosima is this woman's name. She's from Germany.
Mhm.
They ran into each other. They just started talking. And so we had they worked out some sort of like nanny share thing because
Mm.
they that worked out really well. And my son and their daughter are like best friends because they've known each other since they were like a month old.
Mhm.
So we got lucky from that standpoint, is that we had kind of a built-in childcare system. And I would, we would take them for a couple hours, and they worked out a payment system and all the stuff that worked out. But I was, because of what her job is, it was sort of assumed that I would be the one that took on some of that stuff. And it worked out too, because not having like a full-time gig for the past 4 years has allowed me to be a lot more flexible with my schedule. I've got to spend more time with them, and I was trying to find something a little more stable. And again, it was like, don't rush it. You have this great opportunity to hang out with your son. Not many dads get that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to regret this, you're going to miss it when it's over. And so yeah, it was me that took that on, because my wife just does not have that with flexibility of what she does now. Is she's now an investigator. She's no longer a street officer, but she's a DA investigator for the county.
I was going to say, did you
Amazing.
ever think, was that a conversation ever, her job?
No, I don't.
No.
I mean, I think from it's changed a little bit from her standpoint about, again, like what's important, like what she's trying to do. But maybe some promotions and things can wait a little bit as I focus on this.
Mhm.
But she's really driven, and I'm super proud of her. Like, she got Investigator of the Year last year
That's
for
awesome.
the county.
Amazing.
Got the award, and it sucked I wasn't able to be there because I had to go to Wadapalooza, and I felt like an asshole because I missed it. But yeah, so she's done great, and I think for her it's been more like, okay, maybe I need to just understand that there's sort of like a longer road to this goal, as opposed to like it's going to happen now because we're parents.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I just, from the safety aspect, like I'd be worried, you know what I mean? Her being a cop.
Yeah. Luckily, she's not on the street anymore. She still carries a weapon. She still has to go out, serve subpoenas, things like that, question people. But we're lucky, like here in Santa Clara County, they have a really good operation. So you cannot worry about that stuff constantly. It will kill you. Like, it will just, so I think I've done a pretty good job of letting my brain take over and understand that there's it's always likely, but it is highly unlikely. So don't worry about the highly unlikely, because if you spend time focusing on that, the anxiety is just going to kill you. And I have no control over it right now. And I know she takes all the safety precautions when she's got to go serve a subpoena. She takes somebody with her. She's armed. She knows how to use her weapon. So yeah, it's better now that she's more or less in an office. But yeah, when she was out on the street constantly, and
was she out on the street during 2020?
20 years. I'm trying to think. No, I don't think so. No, she wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, then I would have been concerned.
Yeah, that was rough. So there's the anxiety and the worries there aren't as great as they once were.
That's awesome.
Was she on the street when you guys found out that you were pregnant? Or was she already in the office?
No, she was already in the office.
She was already in the office.
Yeah.
That's perfect then.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I would freak out. I'm not good like that.
Oh yeah, no, there would have been no.
Nope.
No.
Feel like I don't get involved in your career that much, but
Yeah,
I will get involved in your career right
yeah,
now.
and I've never been like, I'm gonna. I don't have a problem with her doing what she wants to do. I've always told her, like, wait a minute, make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. When she says stuff about her career and she says, I think maybe I need to not go after this. I go, well, are you saying that because you think that's what's best for us, or because that's what you really want? Because I don't want there to be any regrets. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. But if it's that genuinely what she wants to do, then I'm all for it. But I always try to say, okay, well, just take a second and make sure that's exactly what you want to do. Because I don't want there to be any sort of like, oh man, if I would have been able to do X, Y, and Z if it had been for this situation.
Yeah. So now that he's older, does he know what you do? Does he know
kind of
that you're a big deal?
No,
that you're recognized everywhere?
He doesn't really get that. He doesn't really understand that right now. I don't think he understands. I think he understands maybe more what my wife does. But
has he ever like just been watching the screen with mommy and seen you on the games or
heard your voice? Or
it's happened before, and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go back to my Hot Wheels. It's nothing. It's not like and that's fine.
Kid.
Yeah,
typical kid
doesn't really get it. But maybe one day. But that's fine.
So has he traveled with you ever to any events or not yet?
We took him to the games in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
When he was 2.5, I think, and that was, oh my God, I think we set a record for the amount of crap we dragged through the airport. Like, there was so much.
For one kid, right? It's just one kid, and you still have
pack way too much
everything.
Stuff.
Oh my God! And I had all this broadcast gear that I had to take. I mean, it was, honest to God, like, I was like, I have never dragged this much crap through an airport in my life. But
you probably didn't even use most of the stuff with him, right? It was probably like the 5 things that he actually played with, and you brought this and the carrier and the stroller and the this and the toys and the
car seat and all this stuff. Yeah, but it was fun. He had a good time. My brother showed up, and I think it was the first time he met my brother, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was fun. And we were talking about doing Scotland this year, but it was just going to be too much at the time. Plus my dog had an emergency surgery that put a huge dent in the family budget, so we had to take care of that. So it was like, yeah, we'll do that.
I know. I saw that about your dog. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Moron, man. I'm so still angry at that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if you have dogs.
Oh yeah.
If you go to the vet and they know like this is a life or death situation, you're finished. They have you in a vice, and it's like, and I was looking at these. They gave me a printout, like itemization of this process, and I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are an emergency hospital, and you're charging me a 30% emergency fee for. I go, this is insane, but I can't say no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Because we just gone through losing a dog like a month prior, and I'm not. That ain't
right.
We're not doing it again. Yeah.
Like, I could have bought like a used Kia Sportage for what I pay for this. Like, it was.
That is crazy. That is no joke.
They are no joke.
God damn, it was highway robbery. So.
Yeah, we just got a puppy, and she had worms, and we had to go to the emergency vet because our vet wasn't open. And it was when they gave me the amount, I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. So you're telling me this? So here's the total.
Mm-hmm.
This much of the total is the 5 minutes that you saw her, and then this little bit is actually how much the medicine
costs.
So
and there's no Kia hate. I'm just saying, Kia, it's a great vehicle. Sorry, Kenneth. Make a great vehicle, no problem. I'm just saying, for the amount of money I paid, I probably bought one. So.
Are you going to be I see you have him on skates. He's ice skating. He's learning to ice skate now.
Yeah, he goes to like every week. He goes to like a he calls it hockey class, but it's really, they don't use a stick or a puck. They just teach him how to skate. And he's like the youngest, smallest kid in his class. So he's trying. He seems to like it. Like I tell him every time, like, hey man, if you don't like this, if you're not having fun, we don't have to do it, because I don't want to push him into something he doesn't want to do. But he looks forward to it. He enjoys it. He likes going with me. So yeah, I just want him to try everything, find his thing. I think a lot of times as parents, you want your kids thing, like your thing to be your kids thing.
Yeah.
But that they need to find their thing. And if it happens to turn out to be your thing, that's great. But they need to find their things. Like my things are my things. I can't just assume that he's going to be into it. But whatever he's into, I just want to make sure that he like takes it seriously, tries hard, and applies himself to the fullest of his abilities. Like just be a good student, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Have you ever put him in too many things and then you sit back and you realize, we're never sitting down?
Oh my God. Like, I only have one. I don't know how
So do
people.
we only have one.
Yeah.
I don't know how people, like multiple kids do that, because
No.
we had them. Yeah, we had them like kind of pretty busy throughout the week, and I wouldn't even call it like uber busy, but maybe like 2 or 3 things that we were doing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like what? Where did the time go?
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know how people with multiple kids who have, oh yeah, I talked to my buddies on Friday, like, oh yeah, we got a soccer tournament this week, and then there's like a track meet we got to go to, and I think there's a baseball game. So I'm like, my god.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had him in swimming, we had him in jujitsu. He did
Yeah.
flag football this year.
Football, soccer,
Yeah.
like crazy
And I'm
amounts
like,
of stuff.
I'm tired.
Yep.
What are we doing right now? But he loves it. So
Yeah.
thank God for seasons. Because there was one point where they were all meshed together in the same like 3-week span, and I was like, oh, and he's tired.
And I don't know about you, but there's so many more things for kids to do than when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never had a chance to go play lacrosse. Like I didn't
know.
even know that sport existed until I was in college.
Yeah.
You know, like it was they got all kinds of stuff here. It's great. But yeah, you just run yourself ragged, man. Like you gotta take a break every now and then.
Well, I also feel like that society makes it like almost puts like a little bit of a pressure on it. Like we have to keep them super busy all the time. Like if we give them downtime or anything like that, that we're missing out on things. And like I think that there's still a balance where they can be busy, they can do sports, they can hang out with friends, hang out with people their own age, but also too, like we also like to just chill. We also just like to be home, especially when they're, our son's in school all day. So if he's in school all day, I used to feel like, oh my God, well, he has to do something after school too, because he needs to stay busy. He's in a classroom. He's kind of sitting all day. Yeah. But then it got to a point where he's looking at me. I'm looking at him. I'm like, do you want to just go home? He's like, yeah, I kind of just want to go home and do my own thing. So
I listened to this podcast, the New York Times Daily podcast had one, and I try to listen to it every now and then. It was on like intensive parenting is what they're calling it, and how the Surgeon General, I guess, put out a warning that intensive parenting is a hazard to parents' health. And they sort of defined what that is, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's like just pinballing from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and always thinking that you have to keep your kid busy and always organizing activities, and how that takes its toll on parents because there's no downtime. And they talked about how in the 70s and 80s, when I grew up, it's like you would go to a friend's house with your parents, and then they would go hang out in the living room, and you would just go back and do your own thing, and no one would supervise you for like 2 hours, and then you would go home. And now it's just constantly like, okay, what are they doing? Let's be involved. And yeah, you want to be involved, but at the same time, you got to give your kids space to like, just go be a kid and fall down and go make up a game and run around and do whatever you want. And I'm not going to be there. Like they got to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
No. Well, do you feel like you kind of are battling that where like you want him to go do his own thing, but there's a little bit of like a helicopter feel where it's like, because the world is so different, society is so different, like trusting other people is not like it used to be. So do you feel yourself battling with that a little bit, or your wife?
I think more so my wife than me, just because of what she deals with. She's very like,
knows everything and anything.
But she's also very good about like when we're out letting him kind of do his thing. But there is always this tendency like, okay, where is he? Like I'm very much, where is he? Where is he? Okay, I got eyes on him. Like we went to this thing at the Oakland Zoo the other day called the Glowfari, and it's really cool. It's they put up all these lit up sculptures and you walk around. It's great. There's a ton of people there, but like I was constantly like, where is he? Just keep an eye on him. Not necessarily making sure like I was right there, in close proximity, but just knowing where he was and what he was doing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
Well, I feel like it's hard as having play dates. Like when I try to do play dates with friends or whatever.
Or Colleen.
But the thing is, I am that parent. So I have parents that are trying to talk to me, but I'm not listening and I'm not trying to
you're half like, but
I'm looking for my kid. And some parents just let their kids go and trust that like their kids are going to be okay. And that like, I'm not there yet. And I feel like it just has a lot to do with society of like, I want to keep an eye on him. I'll let him go do something. Like he can be far away from me now. But I feel bad. People are like, why don't you do more play dates? I'm like, because I'm not listening to what you're saying. I'm just watching watching my kid.
I totally get that. And for me, it's more of like, I want to make sure he's not being an idiot. Because I see some of the things that kids do. I was like, where the hell is the parent right now?
Yes.
So I'm just ready to like, I'm just on the sidelines if he's going to do something stupid, then I'm like immediately there to make sure I'm correcting it. Because like that, I don't want to raise a dickhead. So I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
It's like our main goal.
Yes.
And people sometimes look at me when I come in and tell them something. They're like, what are you doing? I said, he did something wrong. Like he's got to know that he can't do that. I'm not yelling. I'm not, I don't want to be that.
Right.
I don't, I was raised by the baby boomer generation, and my father's emotional range was like angry to more angry.
Yes.
So I don't want to be that. But at the same time, if you're not listening and you're not paying attention or you did something wrong, you're going to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about cell phones? You're gonna be
Oh
that cell
man,
phone dad?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I heard a great quote from Scott Galloway, who's a professor of marketing at NYU, has a bunch of podcasts and probably is my hero / role model, who said he'd rather give his kids a bottle of Jack and marijuana than social media. And I was like, that's probably true. Like I think social media has done more harm to kids, especially young girls than but at the same time, you don't want, like, there's that balance. You don't want your kid to be ostracized because he's not part of this thing. So I don't know. I really don't. My hope is that somehow between now and then they find a way to age gate all this stuff so that I can just be like, okay, here, you can have a phone, but you're not on social media till you're 18 or whatever. But that, I don't know. I really don't know how parents deal with that. And I am so thankful that I didn't have to deal with that when I was in high school. Oh my God. That would have been awful.
I didn't have it. And kids don't understand everything lasts on the internet. It never goes away. It's there forever.
Well, plus bullying, like that was like if you, when I was in high school and elementary school, like if you had to say something to someone, it wasn't done behind the keyboard and the safety of a computer screen. Like you had to say it directly to them, and then there were direct consequences of that. Like that's not the case now.
No, not at all.
It allows people to be much more dickish.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about this the other day.
Yeah, we just had beepers. I remember
beepers.
I didn't have a beeper till I was like working in TV. I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Someone can page me. Wow.
It was the coolest thing ever. And I feel like that is what we're trying to balance now as parents. And, I know you guys talked about it before, where when you become a parent, your entire world changes. Mm-hmm. And it is realizing that society will always change. But do you feel like that there is a lack of boundaries? Do you feel like that there's a lack of parenting, for a lack of better terms? Because I feel like that the parents that parent their children are looked at as being helicopter parents, as being over the top. Whereas we're just saying, like, I want to teach my kid to be respectful, that there's boundaries, that like the world is not as safe as it used to be. Do you feel like that has a lot to do with like a lack of boundaries?
Yeah, I think I heard a good quote. It's like, parenting is hard for good parents because you have to be involved. Yeah. We go to a lot of places where there are a lot of people, and my wife and I just like look at each other like, what the hell is this guy doing? Half the time the parents are on their own phones, not paying any attention. Their kids are running wild. And I do. So I do think that there's just this lack of boundaries too. And I think a lot of times parents are afraid, I don't want to upset my child. I don't want to do any damage. I don't want to I have to be dead. Like there's not, and yes, like you don't want to like backhand your kid or anything. I'm not an advocate of that, but you do need to have rules and set boundaries and make sure that you explain them and that they don't break them. And there has to be consequences for actions.
Yeah.
I just see it all the time. Like, I don't know why. And I think it's my generation a lot that are having, Gen X now that has its kids that have sort of, for whatever reason, just abdicated their responsibility of like being active parents. And that doesn't mean being a helicopter parent, but it means, like you said, making sure you know that the boundaries are, making sure that you're respectful. After every time my kid does hockey class, I make sure, find your coach, go say thank you.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And I'm amazed that no one else does that. It's like, that's a simple thing. But like, either you don't know about it or you don't care enough to make sure like your kid's doing it. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is, but like that's what I try to do. Like anytime, if someone's speaking and he's not listening, I'm like, come here, man, you got to shut up or we're going to leave because that person's talking. We have to be polite. And it's hard for a 4-year-old sometimes to sit.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We have a 7-year-old and he's like,
there's a little bit of grace you have to give, but
you can be quiet.
What I see in public is like, you're not going to do anything about this.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Do you feel like that it could be this, because we hear a lot of people say that they don't want to be their parents. So all of a sudden now, there you go. Jeremy Worth. Like I don't want to be my parent. So then this almost extreme of the opposite from the parents of like being mad at the parents for having boundaries, because I was that kid that I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have consequences. And now for me, I'm trying to teach my child that there are boundaries, that there are consequences for bad behavior and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel like that it could be part of the reason why there's a lack of parenting right now?
I think that's probably true. And I think too, look, I'm not perfect as a parent. I know I'm not. I know, God willing, my son grows up. He's like, hey, I thought that was good. Maybe I'm going to change that. And that's what I try to keep in mind too with my parents, that your parents do the best with what they have. Like they're just trying to do the best they can.
Yeah.
There's a lot about my dad that I am not going to be, but there are some things too that, especially when I was younger, I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, that's how I want to be. So I try to take the good and say, okay, let's do that, but let's not do that. But I understand what the intent was, but I'm just going to approach it differently. So yeah, there were boundaries for me, and there were rules and things like that. But like I said, my father had he had a quick temper, and he didn't really deal well with kids. And I got yelled at a lot, and like I watched him blow up all the time. And I was like, that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
I will try to approach things calmly and sternly. Now there is a time where that you do have to apply. You kind of have to go all in.
Yeah, of course.
But I try to make that few and far between. I try not to lose my patience, because I heard a quote, and it was from Mr. Rogers of all people. And I don't know why.
Amazing.
I don't know why this popped up in my feed. It was a clip of him on Oprah. And this is like another sort of North Star for me when it comes to parenting. She asked him, what advice would you have for parents? And he goes, I would just say, remember what it was like for you. And so I try to put myself in that position. It's like, what was it like for me when I was 4 years old? And I was like, dad. Like, what, should I get upset at that? No. It's sometimes hard to deal with because I'm trying to do 5 other things, but I just try to take a deep breath, be calm, and deal with it. So that's really what I try to think. But yeah, I do think there is, like you said, there's this, I'm not going to be my parents, so I'm going to do a total 180. But wait a minute, there were probably a lot of good things in there that they did as well.
Yeah.
So why not focus on that too?
My grandfather's consequences was manual labor. So if you broke the rules,
that's pretty good, man.
During the fall, you were chopping wood, like you were splitting logs, stirring that was his answer and I didn't mind it. I was just like, oh, I messed. Okay, well, now I'm about to go get swole in the yard chopping wood for 2 hours. It's cool.
That's good. I got some wood that I actually got a down tree that needs to be taken care of.
There you go. 4 years old. Let's go get those
There's
sticks.
The axe.
Let's go.
kid.
That was high school.
You don't have to chop them, but we're gonna go pick up those little sticks that are in the corner.
There you go.
We're gonna go like
I
that.
remember coming home and climbing through my bedroom window, and my grandfather would like his chair. He just positioned his chair so he was looking into my room as I was climbing through the window, and it was one of those movie scenes where he just popped the light on, and his face was just right there, and I was like, I know, I'm chopping wood tomorrow. It's cool.
Yep.
It's fine.
See, what had happened was
like my bad.
Yep. Are there any and I always like to ask this about couples, like, do you and your wife handle situations completely different? Or is there one thing that like you have a firm belief or stance on when it comes to your child and then your wife does? Or do you guys manage things like together for every decision? Are you kind of just like, okay, why are we disciplining this much or not disciplining enough?
There's been a couple, like, I don't think there's been anything major. I think we're more or less on the same page with stuff. And I think we do a pretty good job of talking things out. There's been a couple times where I've reacted one way and she's reacted another, and then we talk about it and I go, okay, that makes sense. And we sort of work it out there. But we've never been in like completely, totally opposite spectrums on how things need to be dealt with. So I'm pretty lucky in that respect. I think that it is a definite team effort. Like, we're very much on the same page. Because I think we both had sort of similar things that we had to deal with growing up, especially with our fathers, that molded us into kind of who we are today.
That's cool. I was just wondering about that, because like you hear some couples that are like, well, my family did it this way, and the other one's like, well, my family did it this way, and like, how do you come in the middle when you have two like extreme?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of it is like around the holidays now. So I grew up in a really small family. Like, both of my parents were only children. I had one brother. So there were no aunts and uncles. Like, all our Christmases, we never had big, like, huge family Christmases. We're on the opposite side. My wife grew up around cousins doing stuff all the time. So that's a little foreign to me. So I'm trying to learn how to like do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I want my son to have those experiences. I read another great quote the other day, especially pertaining to Christmas. It's like, I don't remember what I got for Christmas when I was 7 or 8 or anything like that, but I do remember going to see Santa and making cookies and going to look at lights, like the experience stuff. And so I'm like, okay, that maybe we need to do more stuff like that. And it would be fun to have kind of a big get together with the family, but it's just so foreign to me because I never had that growing up. Like there was just no.
You never did like midnight mass, anything like that?
No, I grew up in a pretty irreverent family, so there was no like.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
My grandmother had us up at midnight going to church for Christmas
Oh
Eve.
man, that was not going to fly at the Woodland house. Midnight, hell no. Hey,
Sean's like, I need to go to bed because Santa's coming.
And and my brother and I shared a room, so it was the typical kid. You better shut up, or Santa's gonna, all that stuff. Yeah.
What's the age gap between you and your brother?
22 months, so about 2 years.
Okay. Oh, that must have been fun. You guys must have used to.
Oh my God! Like I remember. Now I know that growing up, why my parents were like, they didn't care who hit whom, who started what, who said what. They didn't just want to shut up for 5 minutes. They just want quiet. And now I get it. I'm like, oh, I totally understand why. Like this was not an exercise in jurisprudence as we both brought our cases to but they didn't care. Just shut up and leave us alone.
Yep. Didn't matter who started it.
Big sports household. Did you guys play? Like, were you on the same teams in high school?
So my brother wasn't as into sports as I was, but he was probably better at the one thing he did than I've been at anything that I've ever done. He and I played hockey together. That was the one sport that we actually played together, and he played goalie, and he was good. He was really good. And then that was kind of his thing. That was the only sport he played. I played a lot of different stuff, but I settled on, I loved football. I played football in high school and I played hockey. And I realized like, if I don't get to put a helmet on and run into people, I'm really not, I don't have an interest in it. Like I like to play basketball with my friends, but it wasn't something I wanted to pursue. I wasn't going to do track because that seemed boring.
You wanted to just hit people.
I just like the aggressive, fast sports. Like that's kind of what I was into. So those were the two that
How tall are you?
I'm 6'1".
Okay.
So I know you said that you wouldn't push what you would want on your son, but if you did have your way, is it football? Your son playing football, or do you look at football much differently now being a parent?
No, I don't. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if I look at it differently. Like all I want is him to just have fun with it. It's like there are risks in any sport. And I get the concussion thing. I understand that. Like I had a couple growing up, especially in high school, and it was literally like, "Are you okay?" I go, "I think so." They go, "Okay, take a seat." All right, get back in there. Like that was like the concussion protocol.
Yeah.
So I think they're a lot more. It's a lot more safe with that. Like I would not have him in any sort of tackle thing until he got into high school and he got a little bigger. Like I'm not going to do that. Like flag is fine. I hope that he really likes hockey because I think it's a fun sport. And I think just team sports in general teach great life lessons. I've always gotten along better and being able to work better with people who have played team sports because they get that dynamic of I have a job to do. It might not be as glamorous as that job, but it is as important. And if I don't do my job, that guy can't do his job, and then we're all screwed.
I always thought team sports just it taught you how to cope better.
Yeah.
So like if I played basketball, when I was playing basketball, if I ran down the floor and missed a shot or I threw the ball away or something, it was just like, okay, you got to get over it and move on and do the next thing and leave that behind you. And they just don't do that anymore.
No.
Kids get so fixated on one thing that is like inconsequential and they lose their minds over it and have no coping skills.
Yeah, it's crazy too. And it's amazing to me how specialized kids get early. I'm like, go play all these sports.
Everything.
And I laugh at it because it's like and I see it at the rink all the time with these parents who've got their kids and all these different things that they're doing at 6. I'm going, listen,
and one-on-ones.
If this kid is good, they will find him, especially today. Go play all these different sports. Go play basketball. Even if you suck at it, learn it. Go play baseball. Go play, run track. Go do CrossFit. Do all this stuff. It's going to make you a better athlete. I remember seeing a stat about the New England Patriots when they were doing their thing and they had that dynasty. Like 90% of their roster was multi-sport athletes growing up. Yeah, it just makes you better. Like I think you'll burn kids out, especially like think about your attention span at 6-7 years old.
Have you seen those teams, like those documentaries of the football where
it's crazy?
It's like little mini 7-year-old professional football teams.
Like what? And
It's
to me,
insane.
it's just more feeding a parent's ego of like, this, my kid's going to be like, fine, great, go do your thing. But understand what the odds are that your son is going to make it not only to Division I with a scholarship, but beyond that and get paid as a professional. Just understand what the odds are here, because it's not going to happen.
They already threw LeBron James's son back on the G League. They knew he wasn't going to be able to play pro ball.
So rare. Like I remember covering Tim Tebow in high school, and there, like he played in Northwest or Northeast Florida. There are a lot of great players that come out of there, and he was a man amongst boys out there. Like it wasn't even fair, and that guy couldn't make it in the NFL.
I know. Yeah. Well, the only thing he could run was like a wildcat or something.
Yeah, but it was literally like watching like a grown man play with kids peewee age. Like it was just not fair. My God, this kid is unbelievable. And you knew then he was going to go to college, but he couldn't even make it in the NFL.
Yeah, and he was great in college.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
Perfect for that system, but not an NFL quarterback.
No. Well, I love the fact that you brought that up, because this is something that we've asked. I think we asked Lauren this question, and we might have asked Bill or Chase this question too, of the topic of teenagers getting into competitive CrossFit as young as they do.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that there is a detriment to getting into competitive CrossFit that early as a teen and only solely focusing on CrossFit and kind of giving up those sports that you were talking about, those team sports and whatever? Do you feel like that's a detriment to some teens?
I would extend that to any sport, like getting that involved in it, because I think, you're only going to be a teenager once. And there's some things that I think you need to experience as a kid that are important. You need to go out with your friends. You need to get into, not terrible trouble, but just go do stuff.
Push
go
the line.
have fun. Yeah. Don't be destructive. Go have a good time. Go to dances, go to, all this stuff. And when you get so singularly focused on something at that age, you miss out on those experiences, and those ain't coming back. Like you're not going to have, I'll just do prom when I'm 25. Like you're not going to have a chance to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with kids wanting to be competitive and wanting to get into it. I just think there need to be boundaries. Like you have got to take time off. You've got to go experience other things. Don't get so obsessed that you're like, this is it. I respect the fact that people have drive to want to be the best at things.
Yeah.
That's fine. But just keep things in perspective and understand that there's so much other stuff out there, especially at that age, that you might not know it now, but you're going to regret not experiencing it when you grow up, because you're never getting that time back. You're going to have plenty of time, especially with CrossFit, to pursue this. Like you get through your high school years. I love the fact that there is a competitive avenue for teens. I think that's great, but I just think there just need to be some very solid boundaries. And I think it's also responsible too for us as fans to maybe not give that the same amount of attention that we give some of the other ones, because the individuals, because then you feed into it.
Yeah.
Like it's a tough question because you never want to discourage someone from pursuing something that they love, but I just think there needs to be like a lot of guidance there to not burn kids out. Because I grew up with kids who were great soccer players, tennis players, and they got all in, and their parents pushed, and they ain't doing it anymore.
Right. You hear that story a lot, where these teenage stars are, in like you said, in whatever sport, that they are superstars when they're young, but then they don't want to touch the sport anymore, and they don't even love it anymore. They won't even watch it anymore. They won't even introduce their families and their children to it, because there's such a bad taste in their mouth or whatever. And I almost wonder, now that you're talking about it, if like, you do separate it a little bit more from the elites, like you were saying. So maybe the teenage season isn't as long and isn't exactly part of that. Maybe there's an age limit where you can't, or whatever it is, like in ways to protect them a little bit longer, so that there is that balance between go be a teen and enjoy being a teenager. And also there is a way for you to pursue your greatness that you're looking to pursue without completely sabotaging the way that, or not sabotaging, but like giving up or sacrificing certain things that you see the elite athletes do, but they're adults and they can make those choices.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I don't want to ever discourage someone from pursuing something that they really, really like and they really want to do. That's great to have that drive and all that stuff, but there's just got to be a balance there, especially at a young age. You're an adult and you want to go all in, go for it.
Right.
But as a kid, man, those experiences of being a kid are, I think, to me, are like, I'm so thankful I had them.
Yeah.
And I loved football. Like I loved it. Like I was working out a lot. I was all into it. But like I was never going to go beyond, maybe playing college, but that was it. But I still loved it. But yeah, I was lucky enough to have other experiences. Like it wasn't as just like obsessive as it is now. Like it's crazy to me when I talk to some of my dad friends who have got older kids with what they go through with these club sports and the money they pay and I was like, my God.
Yeah, Vindicate said something like that.
That's what, Travis.
I would agree with that. Like it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
So expensive.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
and it's I think that everyone just has this dream that, oh wait, if we get the coach, my kid's gonna suddenly make millions of dollars. Like, man,
and save us, right? You hear that story more than not, which is sad to kind of put that pressure on your kid. Like you said, if your kid has that drive, their own personal drive to I want to do this. I want to help my family. I believe that I'm the one that can take that role. But it's the sad stories of you hear the parents living through their children of the dream that maybe was cut too short because of an injury, or maybe they weren't as good and able to do what, their kid has that natural ability and whatever. And those are the sad stories where it's like, stop trying to live through your kids, let them be kids. Yeah. And then if they want to take that, and I love that you keep saying that, like if the kid wants to take that, that's different than the parents trying to make them do that.
Yeah. And I think like for dads too, like there's an ego thing involved. Where like, I want my kid to be good at this. Like that's my kid, and it's hard to dial that back. Believe me, I have that experience sometimes, like where I want him, but then I realize like my thing is not his thing. If he turns out to love hockey and football, great, fantastic. But if he gets into tennis or if he's really good at track, awesome. Get into that, because I'd rather you do that. Find what it is that you love to do and do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to go back to the original question that you asked, babe, I thought for girls, the young girls in CrossFit, it was more of a detriment to them, it feels like, than the boys. It feels like the boys seem to be able to filter out of the team and go individual, and they just have an easier time doing it. And I wonder if you think that is part of social media too.
I think so. And I also think it's like boys grow up being kind of, I don't want to say pushed, but dealing with that sort of environment, I think more at an early age than girls do. Yeah. It's just, they're more competitive by their nature. And I think that, and I think social media probably does play a part in that.
Because girls just seem to be able to show themselves doing sports, and it's like all of a sudden they have 1.2 million followers. The boys don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The boys have to actually be on TV or win a competition or
show their skill, prove themselves, whatever. Yeah.
There's so many girls in basketball right now in the WNBA that they are horrible at basketball, but because of their social media, they're making what, men's players would make.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's just different for young girls, I would say, in CrossFit. I think that's why we're losing so many young girls.
I think you're probably right about that. I think you're right. Like, I mean, remember Anna Kournikova?
Yeah.
Why was she popular?
Right.
She won a tennis tournament.
Right.
She didn't have social media.
Yeah.
If that was like the social media era, that's exactly what you would have.
All she had to do was show up to the tournament and
show up.
Yeah.
And people will pay attention. So I definitely think there's an element to that. And again, like, I'm so glad I didn't have to navigate that as a kid. Oh God.
And no evidence for me anyway.
Oh, yeah, I mean, look, I have some pictures of me in high school, and I look at, I'm like, oh God, thank you, Lord, that's only in analog form and not in, blasted out digitally everywhere. Like, I did not make some good hair choices when I had the hair. I think that's probably why I lost it. Like the hair, you abuse you're out.
Yeah, and I think it's very.
You're gone.
You had a mullet?
Oh yeah, I had hockey hair.
My brother had a mullet. My brother had a red mullet, my color.
We just called it hair. That's just how you wore it. My brother had like the long metal hair. I used to be able to put like my bangs in my mouth. Like, it was bad. Like, it was just.
Senior picture mullet or no?
Yeah, I think so. Let me.
Yes.
Oh Lord,
my brother had a mullet for his senior picture.
Well, my hair was curly, so when my mom gave me bangs, my bangs just stuck straight out like a baseball hat. Like, it was.
Yeah,
just
I don't have it, but we all we made some questionable choices in the 80s and the 90s with our hairstyles. And then that's why, like, when I see the mullet coming back today, I'm like, damn it, we did this so you didn't have to.
Yeah.
You know, look at this. Look at how we look. Now you're doing the same thing. Like, this went out of style for a reason. For the love of God. Like, I think women have gotten the message. Like, I don't look at like young women nowadays. I'm
oh,
like,
the hair in the 80s and 90s was
God, like,
my mother's hair. Forget it, dude. It was crazy.
Just the whole can of Final Nip.
Yes. Yeah.
And now, like, I think
close to the fire, you're gonna set the hair on fire.
And I think girls more often than not have figured out now. I look at some of the guys walking around out there. I'm like, what are you doing, son? What are you doing? You're not going to look back on this fondly. Please just end whatever that travesty you have on your head is. Like, it's like a mushroom thing they have going on. It's like,
yes.
Oh yeah, CK Kevin, the bowl cut.
Yeah,
my brother had that.
Like, I don't know.
I had a bowl cut. My mother cut my hair.
She did. It was funny. Yeah, it was. It was very funny.
Yeah, and I also think, and I say this all the time, I think it's very unfair that some of these some of these girls and young boys are not going through an awkward phase. We went through the awkward phase. You should go through the awkward phase. I feel like
no
it's
filters.
A rite of passage.
No filters.
Because
I
do have some of those old pictures of myself on the internet, and I'm like, oh my God. But listen, you had to go through it to pave the way to get where you are now.
I just feel like, we went through it so you didn't have to, and now you're making the same choices. And damn it,
and calling it style, right?
I didn't waste my glory hair days on a bad mullet so you could just make the same mistake. You know?
Hey, why are there dudes bringing back high waters too? All these guys are wearing these pants that come to their calves.
I don't know.
It's like they're wearing capris.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me now is the shorts that are getting higher.
Shorter for the men.
Someone gave me a pair. I don't know where it was, but I put these things on. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like, I look like I can't wear this. This is sad. Like, this will just look like I'm trying too hard. Like, I can't. Some guys can pull that off. I'm not one of them. Like, I don't.
That was like the basketball shorts in the 70s.
Yes.
Right?
We've done that.
We fought hard not to have to.
Yeah. It's not to go back.
Yeah.
Oh God, man. Where are you at next? See what happens when you say you have time? We keep you.
I don't know. Oh, you mean today?
No. I just meant because I didn't know how much time you had before, but
we got Santa pictures coming up in about 90 minutes that we got to go do.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
There's a retired police officer south of here at Morgan Hill that they turned their whole house into like this Santa's workshop thing, and you make appointments. So my kid is going to dress as Santa. Like we're like, what do you want to wear? I want to wear a Santa outfit. We're like, okay, this is Santa. Let's go. So
love it. That's awesome.
That's going to be an amazing picture.
Yeah. That's going to be really, really cool. Before we go, I thought this would be a fun question that Jake asked as our last question for today. Right. When did you realize that you had the voice?
So I don't think I've ever realized. I've never felt that way. But the first sort of indication that I ever had that I could maybe do something like this was my sophomore year in high school, when I was one of the captains of the football team. And so for our homecoming rally, it was my job to get on the mic and announce every player as they came out. And I was a quiet, kind of reserved kid in high school. I wasn't very outgoing or anything like that. And I remember my coach was like, need you to do this. I was like, okay, fine. And I did it. And then afterwards he came up to me, he's like, Woodland, I didn't know you'd be that good at that. Where did that come from? You did a great job. You sounded awesome. I was like, okay, thanks, coach. And that was the first time anyone has ever said that something that I spoke via a microphone was good. And then that was it. So
we've talked to some MCs, the CrossFit MCs before, and I was trying to get them to do their MC voice on the show. Yeah. And they kind of did it a little bit, but your voice is just your voice.
Your voice. Yeah.
I'm sitting here talking to CrossFit right now. That's just how it feels.
I really appreciate that. And it's funny. I'm at the point in my life now where I want to leave this thing better than I found it. So if there are kids, young people, anybody out there that wants to kind of do this, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. That was always one thing that I wanted to do when I was at CrossFit, is start sort of a teenage sort of broadcasting team. So
that would be really cool.
Because there's, it's one of those businesses where now it's easier to get into because of all the technology, YouTube and stuff. But yeah, I just, if anyone has any questions, happy to answer them, and any young people out there who want to get involved, happy to happy to talk to them too. Cause
That's awesome, dude.
I mean, is there a fear of AI now kind of taking away the
I don't-
beauty of
I think
broadcasting?
we're a long way from that.
Yeah.
Maybe one day,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't worry about that right now. I think
That'd be no fun.
that'd
if
be
it
after
was-
I'm probably not doing this anymore.
yeah. All right, dude. I really appreciate this.
It's
This
my
was
pleasure.
so
Thank you
much
so much for having
fun.
me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this
It
was
was
so
cool.
fun. It was
Uh,
awesome.
Guys, if you tell all your kids to go DM Sean
Yeah, we'll
Woodland
reach
about
out to some
broadcasting.
of our MC
'cause
guys that we know, and
yeah.
I'll tell
Yeah,
them
I'd love to. I would love to get that going to where there's like a group of kids that can go broadcast the teenage games or something, like make it their thing.
that would be so cool.
Not to take anything away from Joel Gadet because he's awesome.
But yeah.
It's just that kind of thing because I don't know who's in the pipeline.
Yeah, for sure. All right,
All right,
guys.
man. Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you.
Thanks
Let's
for
see
having
you
me.
next time.
Deuces.
Bye.
Bye.